Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new series. This is All the Mods 3 Expert Mode, a brand new mod pack that released just yesterday, made of course by the All the Mods team, and it is essentially the All the Mods 3 mod pack, but expertified. They've made it into an expert mode pack, which, for those who don't know, means they've added more of a progression line so that you have to work through certain mods in order to get to certain other mods, usually with the more powerful mods being right at the end. And they've also tweaked almost all of the recipes to make it so that you have to use a bunch of items from different mods to make those powerful items. So, for example, if we go to a notoriously powerful mod, Draconic Evolution, and we look at, for example, the recipe for the Wyvern chestplate, a notoriously powerful chestplate. To make it, we now need to get a Wyvern core, which, as you can see, has had its recipe drastically tweaked to now require items from Britannia, from Actual Editions, from Thaumcraft, from Environmental Tech, and also from Extended Crafting, as well as yet more items from Draconic Evolution itself. This is a really late game, really expensive recipe. We're going to be, many episodes away from getting anywhere near close to items like this, but it should give you a flavor as to how some of the recipes have been tweaked in the pack to make the more powerful items much more difficult and kind of make it so that you have to play through almost all the mods in the pack to get to those items. Something that I really do like in a mod pack. They've also added quests. We can see here we have 7 tiers of quests going from tier 0 up to tier 6, each one progressing through different mods, getting more and more difficult and also more and more powerful as you go forward. For example, tier 0 here kind of just starts you out with the basics. We've got some Tinker's Construct, and the end goal of this quest line is to get us to having a basic Tinker's Construct Smeltery. Tier 1 here walks us through Britannia and some Industrial Craft 2 with a little bit of immersive engineering in the middle there to get us to the Nether. And then the same pattern kind of continues with 1 or 2 mods in each quest line, culminating in a final quest, which then progresses you on to the next tier. And so without further ado, let's have a look at this first quest line. So we start here with 4 square quest boxes, and the different shaped quests mean different things. And in fact, that's exactly what this quest is here to tell us about. The quest book will have a fairly standard progression line for you to follow. However, there will be multiple quests throughout the tiers that are optional but helpful. And so essentially, the square quests here are information quests. We don't have to hand anything in, and we don't get anything back for completing the quest. We just have to tick a box and basically say that we have read it. The circle quests are essentially main quests. You have to complete those to progress on to the next quest and obviously progress on to the next quest here and complete the pack. The diamond quests here are optional quests, so they might be useful, but they're not necessary to progress. If we look on here, you can see there are quite a few of these as we go through. Not necessary, but could be useful and definitely worth considering. And then finally, we have these gear-shaped quests. These indicate the end of a quest line, and presumably those will unlock the first quest at the start of the next quest line. And so I'm going to go ahead and tick all of these. This one talks about how ore generation has changed. That's not something that we have to worry about just yet because we probably won't be doing too much mining in today's episode, because our first goal is getting to this Tinker's Construct Smeltery. So the very first quest here is flinting it up. First off, you will find that it really hurts your hand if you punch a tree. It is a tree after all. You might want to find some less painful alternatives. So you may notice if we go up to a tree, it does hurt if we try and hit it. Now, you can break an oakwood log. It does actually allow you to break it, but as you can see, we do take a little bit of damage there. Not too bad right now. We are still at full health, but if we tried to chop down this entire tree using just our fists, we might not come out of that looking too good. And so instead, one of the first things that we are going to make is this guy, the Flint Hatchet, which is made with 1 stick and 3 flint. Now, we have got some oakwood here, so we can turn that into sticks, but if you don't feel like losing some HP bashing into these oakwood logs, you can instead break leaves, and the leaves will drop sticks. Nice. And so now, I do believe we have a little bit of gravel down here. We do indeed. Also, I think I did just see that auto jump is on. I'm going to turn that off real quick because I'm not a fan of auto jump whatsoever. Also, you may be noticing this kind of weird breaking texture that we're getting. At first, I thought this was an Optifine glitch. I have installed Optifine separately, but I did a test, and this is also present without Optifine, and so I think it might be just a feature of the pack to have this kind of odd block breaking texture, which as far as I know happens with every block. Feel free to let me know in the comment section if you know which mod is causing that. But nevertheless, we can craft the gravel up into flint. We are going to need a little bit more flint than that, actually. We need at least 9 to get us started here. I should also mention, by the way, that we do start with this little guy in the bottom left. It's the only item that we start with, the Akashic Tome. And if we open this up, it essentially has all of the manuals for all of the mods in the pack. So if you want to know about a certain mod, for example, Astral Sorcery is right up here at the top left. You've got Britannia, Draconic Evolution, the digital guide is for environmental tech, I believe, XNet, all kinds of manuals in here. You can click on it and it will give you that manual. And then I believe that you can get that back into the tome somehow, maybe just craft it. I'm actually not quite sure how that works. Thankfully, we do not need that in today's episode. There might even be a key binding that will, turn it back into its regular book. Also, we should probably be standing like over here to kind of more optimally and more quickly break all of this gravel. I think that should be more than enough to create our first hatchet. Not necessarily something that you want to normally be doing underwater, but now that we have it, we can go and we can chop down this oakwood tree without taking any damage. Another mod that is in the pack is Ore Excavator, the mod that would normally let you tear down an entire tree at once or break all of the same type of block at once. Unfortunately, if I go ahead and hold down the Ore Excavator key and I try and break this log here, you'll see that you need an excavator modifier or enchantment on your tool to be able to excavate. And so, whilst we do have the mod in the pack, we can't actually use it until we get the excavate modifier, which thankfully is not too difficult to make. It's 4 iron, 2 redstone, 2 slime, and then 1 manual ingot. Manual, of course, being made in the Tinker's Construct Smeltery. And so for the time being, we are going to have to break all of these trees by hand. Now, it is getting a little dark, and ideally, I would like to not have to fight any zombies, creepers, or skeletons on my first night here. And so I am going to do a little bit of exploration to see if we can't find at least a couple of sheep and maybe try and throw together our first bed here. I do see a village over there in the distance. I doubt that village is going to have a bed in it. Very much so. We will probably head over there anyway just to see what they have. Here we go. All right. I'm sorry, my friend, but thank you for the wool. There's also exactly 3 of them and also a baby sheep. Nice. All right, there we go. So, crafting table, like so. We do have Tinker's Construct, and so we can make a crafting station. We can then throw that down, of course, get us... That's not where I wanted to put it, but I put it down on that clover there, so I guess for now it's staying in the sky. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, you can't mix and match wool, right? Not in 1.12, which is the mod pack version that we're on Minecraft 1.12.2 right now. And so we do actually need at least 1 more sheep. Hello, my friend. You have turned up just at the right time. Thank you very much indeed. Hopefully, we can actually get a bed going before that zombie gets to us. I did see one not too far away. I can actually hear him now, but thankfully we have managed to get into bed, and so we can start with a fresh day and hopefully progress on to this Tinker's Construct Smeltery. Goodbye, my friend. Thank you very much. All right, let me go ahead and move this crafting station. I did not want to put that there. For now, we'll just throw that down like so, and then let's take a look. So we have the Flint Axe. We've completed the first quest, and one really cool thing that I like about Feed the Beast quest, which is the mod that we're using here for questing, is that you can actually pin quests to the side of the page. So for example, with this quest here, which is Chop Trees, Get Wood, we can click the little pin icon, and that's going to pin that to the right side, so we can kind of continually see what it is we need to do in order to complete that quest. In this case, we need to get 16 of any type of log, and then also 16 of any kind of plank. I'm fairly certain that we don't need both of those simultaneously, and so I'm fairly certain that we can just get 16 logs and then craft those into at least 16 planks, and that should complete the quest for us just fine. Now, one of the most notable recipes that has been changed in the early game here is the recipe for the furnace. So we actually can't make a regular Minecraft furnace until we get pretty much right to the end of the first quest line here, until we're almost at a Tinker's Construct Smeltery. The reason for that is that the regular furnace recipe has been tweaked to require 8 seared stone. Seared stone is made by crafting together seared brick, which is made by smelting grout, or you can make it by pulling seared stone out of a smeltery, which I believe you make by putting cobblestone into a smeltery, but that is for hopefully later on in today's episode. I am hoping that we can get a Tinker's Construct Smeltery and complete that first quest line by the end of today's episode. Unfortunately, we have just lost our axe just a few logs shy of actually completing this first quest here, and so what I think I'm going to do real quick, guys, is head on out, try and find some more gravel. which I might have to head back to that pond we were just at, although hopefully there's a little bit kind of lying around over here somewhere. There isn't. I usually find the best places for gravel are by water, and so I do see a river on the map in that direction, although there is some here actually. So you know what, let's just grab this real quick, but I'm going to go ahead and mine all this up. I'm going to get us to 16 logs and 16 planks, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so not too long later, we now have 26 logs. We can go ahead and craft those up into planks, and that should go ahead and complete the quest. Nice. Our next quest up here is the Tinkerer quest, which wants us to get going with the basic blocks required for getting started with Tinker's Construct, and I'm fairly certain that all of those require a blank pattern, which is made with some planks and some sticks, and then each one of those is made by crafting the blank pattern with a different block. So for example, if you craft it with an oak wood plank, you get a stencil table. With a log, you get a pot builder. With a chest, you get the pattern chest, I believe it is. It is indeed. And then what is the other item that we need? We also need the tool station, and I think the tool station, if I'm not mistaken, is a crafting station with a blank pattern. It is. Nice. That is that quest complete. And then next up is the Better Tools quest line, which wants us to make a flint pickaxe head, a flint shovel head, a flint axe head, and a flint sword blade. So let's clear out a bit of space here. There's a lot of this kind of medium and long grass around us right now, mostly thanks to biomes or plenty. But we'll throw down all of these temporarily right about here. The order of these does matter because you want to make sure that you put the pattern chest next to the pot builder, so like this and like this. That way, when you're inside the pot builder, you can access patterns from the pattern chest, and so we'll go ahead and put you down like that. And for this, we are going to need a few more blank patterns. Thankfully, not too difficult to make, just some sticks and some more planks like so. And if we're going to make each of these, what we need to do is inside of our stencil table, we need to make a pickaxe head stencil, a shovel head stencil, an axe head stencil, and also a sword blade stencil. And then each one of these requires some flint inside of the pot builder to turn into an actual pot. Now, the pickaxe head requires 2 flints, so we actually don't have enough to make this. And I think that might be true of every piece. I think it is. And so if we want to get all of this going here, we need to get at least 8 flint. And so real quick, once again, guys, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away. We might even be able to make a flint shovel like that. We can. And so, like I said, I'm going to go away. I'm going to head over to the nearby river here. I'm going to grab basically as much gravel as we can get. And then we'll come back, we'll craft that up into flint, and we'll see about completing the quest of making all 4 of these flint tool parts. And quite a bit of gravel digging later, and we now have more than enough flint to make all of these tool parts here. And so back over in the pot builder, all we have to do is put each one of these in one by one. We can actually go and put all of the ones that we're not using in the pattern chest for now, and then we can make a flint pickaxe head, like so. We can make a shovel head, we can make a axe head, and then finally, of course, we can make the sword blade as well. Nice. Now, I'm fairly certain that most of these, I think actually everything apart from the sword blade, also requires a tool rod and a binder to actually make it into a tool. So we'll also go ahead and make the tool rod pattern as well as the binding pattern, like so. And then over in our pot builder, we can go and turn our sticks into tool rods, like so. And I think you can actually do this with just the planks as well. You can. So I'll make 4 of those. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, that flint might be a better material for the binding than wood. If you press shift while hovering over any of the parts, you'll see their stats. So, for example, the flint binding here has a durability of 40, whereas, for example, if we were to put oak wood in its place, the oak wood binding has a durability of 15. And so all of our tools are going to have a higher durability if we make the tool binding out of flint. And so we'll go ahead and we'll make 3 of those. And then finally, if we do want to make a sword, we're also going to need to get ourselves one of these guys, a wide guard pattern, which once again, I'm fairly certain is better off being flint. It is. And so now all we have to do is head on over to our tool station. And then for the pickaxe, it is the axe head, the tool rod, and the flint binding. Pretty much the same for the shovel, but with the shovel head. And then, as you may have guessed, pretty much the same for the axe here, but just with the axe head. And then finally, if we go and actually make the white guard, we should then be able to do the same for the sword here with the sword blade and the Wide Guard. Nice. And so we now have a pretty basic set of flint tools. The good thing about the flint tools that we have here over the flint tools that we were making previously is not only do they have much higher durability, this one right here has a durability of 215 as opposed to this one right here, which has a durability of only 59. But on top of that, we can use flint to repair these tools later on down the line, meaning that we don't have to keep using more and more wood to repair those tools as we go. And before we progress on with the quests anymore, I do want to take a quick detour to talk about our food situation, because as you may notice from the lack of mutton chops in my inventory, I have eaten quite a few raw mutton chops just to stay alive whilst I was trying to get all of that gravel. And whilst it worked, it's not particularly ideal in that raw mutton doesn't give you much hunger, and there are better ways that you can eat that. Now, normally, the way that you would solve this problem is by cooking the raw mutton, but as we know, we can't make ourselves a regular furnace, but what we can do is make these drying racks, and if I go ahead and type in mutton, there is a recipe for mutton jerky, which you can get by putting raw mutton onto a drying rack for 5 minutes and thus turning it into mutton jerky. The same, I believe, is also true for beef, for pork, for chicken. You can make all of those into their respective jerkies, and as you can see, it does a pretty good job on hunger and then a really good job on saturation. And so what I'm going to do for now, I think, is just put down maybe like 4 of these here. Obviously, once we get like an actual base going, we can maybe put down some more of these. But for now, I do want to see if we can't get maybe a couple of pork chops before the night falls so we can eat, we can sleep, and then we can kickstart tomorrow with a fresh attempt to complete some of these quests and maybe, just maybe, get a little bit closer to that Tinker's Construct Smeltery. 2 pork chops is a very nice start. Obviously, ideally here, we're looking for 4 pork chops so we can actually fill up our drying racks. And they do take quite a while. 5 minutes isn't a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, but when you're stood there waiting for food, it is actually quite a long time to be waiting around. And so I might even go ahead and put down a few more drying racks kind of around those tool stations and whatnot, just to make it a little faster. We do have 10 of them, and given that it takes so long, it definitely seems like it would be worth it to get them going in bulk here. I think we could also possibly just put these drying racks on top of the pre-existing ones. It wouldn't look particularly great because they'd just be floating, but I think for the time being, we're not really in a situation to be too picky about our drying racks. In fact, you know what? For now, this is going to do just fine. So 1, 2, and then if I can get behind here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, let's sleep, shall we? Okay, so now that that is cooking, I will temporarily eat some of these very handily placed wild berries here. I don't think they have any negative debuff. Eating assists in adding hearts. Beautiful. So we'll eat those. And then the next quest in the quest line here is actually one of 2 quests. We have this quest down here, which wants us to make 4 drying racks, but also wants us to make 6 limestone bricks, as well as 2 kilns. We'll get to that in just a second. It says to create porcelain bricks, you will need to dry them on a drying rack. Be careful not to dry all of your porcelain into bricks. Some parts of the porcelain setup need unfired porcelain, not bricks. And then note, the kiln is a 2x2x2 multi-block in which the top 2 front blocks are the kiln blocks and the rest are the small limestone bricks. So let's have a look. Can we get to the recipe from in here? We can. So small limestone bricks are made with compressed sand and clay. We did get a little bit of clay. I grabbed some whilst I was mining for gravel in a river. We do not, however, have anywhere near enough sand, and so we probably will have to go and grab some of that in just a second here. On top of that, we also need 16 unfired porcelain. Porcelain is made either by crafting 2 clay and a nether quartz, but we're a little ways away from the nether just yet. The alternate recipe is 1 clay and 1 bone meal. So we do have 1 bone in our inventory, which we can turn into 3 bone meal, but if we're going to be able to complete that quest, we do need significantly more bone meal than that. We need 16 in total. So what I'm going to try and do here, without dying, is hopefully killing the skeleton. Now, there is a warning in this first exploration tab here that the monsters are quite tough, and so I am a little worried about trying to fight this guy on only 6 hearts. I'll try and grab like these berries before he notices us, so we can maybe not die here. All right, let's give it a go, shall we? If we can kind of dodge behind the tree, it's quite possible that maybe he doesn't get a shot on us. We could probably also do... Oh, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, actually. Now we've got 9 bone meal, so we're over halfway there. But it might not be a terrible idea to maybe attack a few of these horses just to get some leather armor going in the early game, especially if the mobs are more difficult than default. That was not a lot of leather from that horse. In fact, it was 0 leather from that horse, which is not ideal. I guess realistically we want, 24 to make a full set of leather armor, but I would settle for something like a leather tunic right about now, just to give us a base bit of protection against whatever mobs we may come across. And I think it's probably going to be a little while now before we actually finish the bone meal quest, the porcelain clay quest, because we're going to have to wait for nightfall before we find any more skeletons that we can attack. And so I think, once again, guys, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go away, because if we look at the recipes here, we need 2 kilns, and we need 6 small limestone bricks, which are these ones right here, I believe. And for that, we need at least 6 lots of compressed sand, which is 54 sand. Plus, if we're going to get the 2 kilns here, we're going to need 16 sandstone, which is another stack of sand. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go away, I'm going to grab an absolute metric butt ton of sand. I might also grab some leather and some more pork chops whilst I'm at it, and I'll be back in a second. And a few stacks of sand later, we're back here at the base just as night is falling. But before we go and try and fight ourselves some skeletons, we should go ahead and make some form of storage device. I think a chest will do for the time being, because our inventory is getting a little bit on the full side, although our sword pattern should definitely be over there in the pattern chest. I managed to get 3 stacks of sand, and so what we should be able to do here is craft up at least 16 of the sandstone, and then craft that up into the 2 kilns. And then from there, we can go ahead and craft up at least 6 compressed sand, which we can then craft up with some clay, which I also got a little bit more of as well. We've now got almost 2 stacks of clay available to us, and then we can craft those like so to get, to get the small limestone bricks. Nice, and that is pretty much everything it takes to make the kiln. Now, before we actually go and make the kiln, let's see if we can't get 7 more bone meal here. Now, our jerky is ready, and so it probably wouldn't have been a terrible idea, actually, to go and grab that jerky before we came over and tried fighting these guys. But nevertheless, that takes us up to 12 bone meal. I don't think, as of just yet, we have a more efficient way of turning bones into bone meal. Later on down the line, we can get things like the pulverizer that will allow us to turn 1 bone into more bone meal. I think it's 6. But for the time being, I think we're kind of limited to a 1-to-3 ratio of bones to bone meal. Now, I can see on my minimap that there is a skeleton over in this direction. We do have the mob icons turned on. Those are not turned on by default. You have to go into the settings, which you can get to by pressing J and then options. And then it's right here, mob display. So having large icons on does mean that we can kind of cheat a little bit in that we can see where the mobs are a little further away. Now, is he down there? I don't think he is. I don't think he would show up if he was down there. No, he is over there. Hello, my friend. I would prefer not to die today. Thank you very much. And that is more than enough bones to get us to the 16 that we need to actually make our porcelain clay. Nice. We might need a little bit more going forward. I'm actually not too sure how many bones we need in total, but for the time being, for the quest at hand, we have completed and got all of the items that we need. And so I am going to have to fight off a few of these zombies here. We'll start with the very fast and small one, and preferably not die here. He is rather strong. Also standing on top of our freaking jerky here. The big one's much, much slower, and thus much easier to hit. Let's chomp down on some carrots real quick. There are so many of them. I guess this is what you get for setting up shop right next to a very dense and dark forest. Probably not my best idea. I've also got an angry zombie here from Thorncraft. Although we are going to have a decent amount of rotten flesh at the end of this, which I'm fairly certain we can turn into zombie jerky. So if I actually grab all of that rotten flesh here, we can put that onto our drying racks to make monster jerky. Not quite as good as, pork or beef or chicken or anything like that, but a very welcome secondary food supply if we should need it. Is it faster? It's not. It's still just as slow, but like I said, nice to have nonetheless. So now that it is daytime, let's go ahead and grab all of our jerky off the wall here so we can actually eat and stay at full health and also run, which is very nice indeed. And then let's come over and see if we have what it takes to complete this quest. So we need 16 unfired porcelain. That is made by crafting together the bone meal with the clay. For now, I'll make exactly 16 just in case we need the bone meal for anything else. There we go. It did say not to take all of the bone meal and turn it into bricks, but we can take some of them and put them into our newly built kiln, which is going to look something a little bit like this. Not the most ideal place to put it, but it works nonetheless. And so now what we can do is we can put some of our unfired porcelain into here with a little bit of fuel in the fuel slot. And you're a fool, Isaac. That's not how that's done. This is done on the drying rack. Of course, you put the unfired porcelain onto the drying rack. This, I think, is a little bit faster. Yeah, you can see the percentage bar at the top there, filling up much, much quicker with this than it does with the jerky. And then with that, we can then begin to craft some of the next items that we need, those being a porcelain melter, a porcelain heater, 2 porcelain faucets, a porcelain crafting table, and a porcelain casting basin. So if we head on over to JEI and we type in porcelain, we can actually bookmark these recipes by pressing A while hovering over them. So hover over, press A, and then now they're bookmarked on the left. So if we get rid of the word porcelain, they're still there, and we can still, quickly and easily find the recipe without having to type in porcelain every single time. And so I think for this, we pretty much just need a bunch of porcelain brick, and I think we actually need a lot more than the 16 that we've been recommended to make, because the melter needs 6 plus another 5 for the porcelain barrel here, so that's 11. We then also need to get ourselves the heater, which is another 6, so that's 17. On top of that, I'm fairly certain you need 3 per faucet. That is true, so another 6 on top of that takes us to 23. We then need a porcelain casting basin and a porcelain casting table, both of which I think take 7. They're the same recipe, just flipped. So that's 14 more on top of the 23, meaning that we need a grand total of 37 unfired porcelain in order to get ourselves to that porcelain melter. And so for the time being, we can go and put all of this on here because we know for certain we're going to need at least 16 of these porcelain bricks. There aren't any other crafting recipes at the moment. This one does need more compressed sand as well as a vitrified sand sharpening kit and some clay cast there. We've got enough clay, I think, for the time being. But I think what I will do now, guys, is once again pop away, probably go and grab just a bunch more sand because I think we're going to need so much of it to get us through to the smeltery here. And then once again, we'll kind of wait for night to fall, see if we can't get a few more skeletons and therefore a few more bones. And I'll be back in a second. Okay, so way too many skeletons later, our flint sword is almost broken, but we now have 10 bones, which we can craft up into 30 bone meal, and then of course craft up with the clay to make an absolute ton of unfired porcelain. So for now, I'm going to go up to, what did I say, 37, 39, same thing. So we should, in theory now, have everything it takes to actually make this. Now, they did point out in the quest book that not everything has to be turned into porcelain brick. For example, we do need at least 1 unfired porcelain barrel, which we can then fire in our kiln over here. While we wait for that, though, let's go ahead and make some of the things that we definitely know that we do need. For example, the porcelain melter itself, kind of the heart of the operation here, which we should now be able to do, like so. And then what else are we missing? So I've bookmarked quite a lot of things, but I don't think we actually need everything that I've bookmarked. We need a heater, a basin, a table, and faucets. So the heater, we don't need the alloy tank, we don't need the window, we don't need the porcelain tank for now, we just need a heater, which is another kiln, which I don't think was too hard, right? It was 8 sandstone? Yes. So we can take that, and that should be the heater pretty much taken care of. We then need 2 faucets, a porcelain casting table, and a porcelain basin. Now, I don't really think that we're going to need all of those, but in the interest of completing the quest, we'll go ahead and make them, I guess. Here we go. I think we are going to need just a few more. I don't think we need another one of these guys, the white porcelain barrels. I will, however, keep 5 porcelain just in case. But over here, we can go ahead and make ourselves one of these guys. And then we can almost make one of the basins. We need 2 more ingots. Thankfully, we now have that. And actually looking at it, we do need at least a few more of these. So for now, I'll throw those on there. We do have extra bone meal and clay should we need it. But that is the basin. That is 1 faucet. Is that not correct? Oh no, the faucets! No, stop! I knew we needed more for some reason. That's fine. We do have the extra bone meal and clay, and thankfully we have what it takes to make at least 6 more, which is exactly what we need to make 2 of these unfired faucets, which we can of course fire over here in our kiln. And I'm fairly certain that's everything it takes to complete the quest. It is good stuff. So we'll grab you, and then we are going to need a little bit more fuel in there. I did also go ahead and make a second chest here because the first one was getting a little bit full. But we'll throw some fuel in. That should be pretty much taken care of. Whilst we're waiting, over here we can grab some flint. I think 2 should suffice, and we can repair our sword. Now, I think it's always worth checking with 1. Yes, you'll see here that we can almost fully repair this with 1 flint, or we can use 2 flint to fully repair it. It would use both flint. And so that second piece of flint would effectively be being used for 16 durability, which isn't really worth it. So instead, we'll use the second piece on repairing the Flint Shovel there. Nevertheless, faucet complete and quest taken care of. Nice. Up next is the Vitrified Pickaxe. So it says, by now you should realize that your flint tools won't get you far in life. If you want to start mining some metals, you're going to need a Vitrified Sand Pickaxe head. Use a Sharpening Kit to repair this tool. Note, compressed sand melts into vitrified sand, while regular sand still melts into glass. So for this one, we need a Vitrified Sand Sharpening Kit, which you make with a Sharpening Kit cast. We need a Vitrified Sand Pickaxe head, which you make with a Pickaxe head cast. And we need a compressed sand. Thankfully, should not be too difficult. I did grab some more sand whilst I was away just then, so that's part of the quest taken care of. We do now, however, have to assemble the Porcelain Smeltery that we have just acquired the parts for. So for this, it's fairly simple. It's the heater on the bottom, it's the melter on the top, and then for now we'll put the casting basin on one side and the casting table on the other, with one faucet coming out of the left side into the table and another faucet coming out the right side into the basin. And essentially, the way this works is you get some fuel. For now, we will use wood, because that's what we have. We'll put that into the heater. And then in the top slot, this is where we can put, for example, our compressed sand, which is going to melt down, hopefully, into the vitrified sand, which we can then turn into a pickaxe head and a sharpening kit. However, before we do that, we do have to get ourselves 2 clay casts. We need a pickaxe head cast, and we also need, if I can bookmark that, that'd be great. We also need a sharpening kit cast as well, so I'll bookmark that. Both of these require 2 ingots, aka 288 millibuckets worth of clay, and we get, let's have a look, 1 ingot worth, or 144 millibuckets per clay that we put in here. So we need to put at least 4 clay into our mixer. We can start with 3. That's going to melt the clay down. We can then pull that clay out into a porcelain casting table, and in order to make it into one of these 2 casts, we have to actually make a part that we want to make into the cast. So for example, if we wanted to make a pickaxe cast, we would need to get a pickaxe head and then pour the molten clay over that pickaxe head. Now I know we can make a flint pickaxe head, but I'm hoping that we can make a wooden pickaxe head, because wood is a resource that we have significantly more of right now, or we can get more easily. We can indeed. Nice. So we'll make that. We then also need a sharpening kit. So we'll grab the sharpening kit stencil, like so, and then do the same thing again and make a wooden sharpening kit. And then over here, once we've got some clay melted in our melter, we can put in a pickaxe head, pull the clay by right-clicking over the pickaxe head, and that should get us the pickaxe head cast. And then secondarily, we need 1 more clay in there to get us up to 2 buckets. We can take that out, and then we can put the sharpening kit in, and as soon as that's melted, we can make our sharpening kit cast as well. Now, from there, we should then be able to put our compressed sand into the melter to get the molten vitrified sand, and then we can pull that out over both the sharpening kit and the pickaxe head cast to get the respective sharpening kit and pickaxe head. And by the looks of it, you get quite a lot of molten vitrified sand per compressed sand. We get 1,296 millibuckets of the molten vitrified sand, which should be more than enough to make both the pickaxe head and maybe multiple of the sharpening kits as well, which is very nice. So we'll pull that out. We'll throw our first compressed sand in there, let that melt down. This does use up the pickaxe head and the sharpening kit, so don't use anything valuable in here. You know, don't make like a diamond pickaxe head and then pour the clay over it, because you will destroy whichever pickaxe head or sharpening kit is in there. But once that is done, I think we are very close to being there. So the next quest on after we get this vitrified sand taken care of is alloying the basic edition. You may realize your porcelain melter can only hold 1 liquid. In order to make alloys, you need an alloy tank. To make an alloy tank work, you need a heater underneath and either 2 tanks or 2 melters on the side of the alloy tank with the required liquid. So I think, if I'm not mistaken here, we're going to need another porcelain heater and another melter, which means I think, again, we need yet more bone meal, as well as probably quite a bit of sand. Now, sand we have, bone meal we don't, so I think we might be in for another night of fighting skeletons, because we need just so much bone meal if we're going to be able to get the alloying tank to work here. The reason we need the alloying tank is that if we look at the recipe for seared stone is made with compressed sand and clay. You can see here, first melt compressed sand and clay, and then alloy it into molten grout. Finally, pour the grout over some gravel to get your first seared stone. So we do need the alloying up and running. This is melting very slowly, but the reason for that, Isaac, is that we do not have any fuel in there. And in fact, we are rather low on wood in general, so I might have to spend a little bit of time chopping down some trees here again at some point. But for now, guys, I think once again, does this go back? It doesn't look like it does. It looks like it retains its progression there. And so what I'm going to do, guys, once again, I'm going to go away. I'm going to spend the night fighting as many skeletons as I can and trying to get as many bones and therefore bone meal as it is possible for me to get. And I'll be back in a second. All right, so now that I've got a nice collection of bows going from all of those skeletons, we can throw those away. We can put a little bit more fuel into our melter here to finish off the last little bit of the compressed sand there. Whilst we wait for that, I'm going to temporarily remove these two guys because I have made another porcelain heater as well as another porcelain melter, like so. Now that we have, we'll get back to that in a second, by the way. Now that we have the vitrified sand, we can pull that out over the sharpening kit to make the vitrified sand sharpening kit. And then we can also pull that out over the pickaxe head clay cast to make a pickaxe head. Nice. Now, the downside to using clay casts is that they are only single use. Later on down the line, we will be able to make more conventional casts, which you can make out of gold or aluminum brass. But to make those, we have to get gold or aluminum brass, which we don't have right now. And so we are kind of stuck with these clay casts, which for the time being are single use. And so for now, I'm going to put these away. I think that is the quest complete. It isn't because it didn't recognize the sharpening kit. How? Oh, I didn't take it out. That's why. Okay. That's slightly annoying. However, it's not too bad. I think I'm going to have to break this. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this guy because we have to melt more clay down. And with the porcelain melter, you can't have more than one liquid in the tank at any given time, I don't think. And so what we'll do instead is temporarily we'll do this. We'll move our fuel over like so, and we'll put 2 clay in here. That's going to allow us to very quickly make another sharpening kit cast, which will then complete the quest, at which point we can move on to making this guy, the porcelain alloy tank, which is made with 2 porcelain barrels and 2 porcelain faucets. So all of these are made without bricks, so these are all made from unfired porcelain and then fired in the kiln. And so we need 5, 10, plus 6, we need 16 unfired porcelain, and I think we should be able to do that. I've still got 8 bones left here, and so that actually should not be too difficult whatsoever. Let's go ahead and get up to 15, and then we'll grab all of those, and we can go and do something like this, get 2 of these barrels going, and then we are just one little bit of porcelain away from being able to make ourselves 2 more of the faucets, like so. And we probably didn't need to do that because we'd already have 1 faucet, but just to be on the safe side, we'll go ahead and get an extra one going there. That's going to get us the clay cast. Good stuff, good stuff. We can also put the barrels in there as well. And actually, I didn't know that you could do 2 at a time like that. We kind of got in right at the last second, which is really nice. That is that quest complete. Fantastic. And also a spare sharpening kit should we need it. The sharpening kits, by the way, are used to repair tools. I'll show you how that works in a future episode when we actually use the vitrified sand tool and need to use the sharpening kit. But for now, we have an alloying tank, which I believe we can put in the middle between these 2 porcelain melters. Now, I am going to break this melter because we need to get rid of the vitrified sand. Before I do it, though, it seems only sensible to actually use that cast that we just made and get a little bit of value out of this vitrified sand. It's not too much of a waste if we don't, because at the end of the day, it is just sand. It's fairly easy for us to get more of it in the future. But for now, we're going to get rid of you, and then I'm going to replace it instantaneously because now it should be empty. And it is. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the way this works is we put our porcelain alloying tank in between these 2 porcelain melters, and then we can pull out the resultant alloy from the middle. So we can test this because the quest here tells us to combine compressed sand and then clay. So we'll put some clay in this one, and then we'll put some compressed sand in the other one. We'll go with 3 for now. We'll go with 1 for now. I don't think we need that much compressed sand. We do need fuel in there, though, and for now we are running a little low on fuel. I'll put a bit in just to get that kind of kick-started there, but while we're waiting, we can definitely cut down some more trees. And this is the first time where our casting basin is actually going to come in useful as opposed to our casting table, because once both of these have combined, we're going to pour the resultant grout over some gravel. So gravel is going to go in here, and then we're going to pull the molten grout over the gravel to make seared brick. That's the plan, at least. So let's go and start smelting up you. We'll continue smelting you. I think as soon as both of these have liquid in them, the middle porcelain alloy tank here should register that, and should also register that it can pull both of those in to make the molten grout alloy, at which point we can then make seared brick. It is 1 gravel per seared brick. We need 16 to complete that quest. Right now, we only have 12 more, so 13 in total. So we are going to be a little shy on gravel. Once we've done that, we can then, of course, make our first furnace, this only requiring the 8 seared stone. And then from there, we have to get a whole butt ton of seared stone if we want to make an actual smeltery. And so I might actually do this at the start of the next episode, because otherwise this episode might just go on for an eternity. All right, so that is now in there. Did this work out as intended? It hasn't. The reason for that is that we need to have a heater underneath the alloy tank itself. So we actually need to get ourselves yet another one of these porcelain heaters here, which means yet another one of these kilns. Hopefully the last one of the episode. There we go. We'll craft that up with our porcelain brick. That gets us yet another porcelain heater. I don't think it matters which way around you put this. So for now, I will grab all of our fuel, stick that in the middle, and then that should begin to, there we go, turn all of that into that molten grout, which we can then right-click to pull over the casting basin, and then that should solidify into our very first bits of seared brick. Nice! And so that is how you get seared stone in this pack. It's a pretty involved process. We needed a bunch of sand, a bunch of gravel, a bunch of clay, a ton of bones, but we got there. In the end, we have our first seared stone, and what I'll do, guys, between episodes is I will continue getting more and more of the seared stone until we have enough to make a furnace, until we have enough to make the basic Tinker's Construct Smeltery, which at that point will, of course, unlock tier 1. And so at the start of the next episode, we'll make our first furnace and our first smeltery. As always, if you did enjoy the video and you want to see more All the Mods 3 Expert Mode in the future, be sure to go ahead and hit that like button. It really does help out a lot. Leave a comment down below, subscribe if you're new here to get notified as soon as new videos go out. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.